Thursday, March 22. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Finance Minister Audley Shaw closed the 2018-2019 budget debate on Wednesday by largely refuting what he termed as inaccuracies from both opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips and finance spokesman Mark Golding. In closing the debate, the finance minister rebutted statements from his opposition counterpart, Mark Golding, that blamed the Jamaica Labour Party administration for the country's current fiscal and economic challenges.
The minister effectively corrected the false historical narrative of the opposition spokesman on finance and the opposition leader about the origin of Jamaica's fiscal and economic crisis, which was primarily a result of the disastrous and devastating high interest rate and high inflation policies of the PNP during the 1990s and 2000 period. In his attempt to portray the PNP as a party of fiscal discipline and responsibility, he made several demonstrably false claims. For example, he stated that the PNP established Tax Administration Jamaica as a semi-autonomous revenue agency with its own board to provide policy guidance and good governance. Here are the facts. The JLP government launched a comprehensive tax reform program in 2009, which led to the establishment of the TAJ as a semi-autonomous revenue authority by the JLP in May of 2011. As a wise man once said, facts are a stubborn thing.
At the end of the 2017-2018 financial year, Jamaica's debt-to-gross domestic product ratio stood at 105%. However, the island's debt remains a major concern. Mr. Shaw again corrected what he said were inaccuracies from the opposition regarding the national debt.
Both the spokesman and the opposition leader claimed that the JLP, quote, inherited the national debt. In one case, 147%, one said close to 150% of GDP in 2012. This is again false. False. The actual national debt in 2012, when we left it, 2011, end of 2011, was 131.3% of GDP, for far less than the 150% being claimed by the opposition spokesman. It is important that we correct these issues. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the national debt was actually on a downward trend under the JLP government at the end of our term.
From inflation and tax packages to social intervention programs and fighting corruption, Mr. Shaw went through a checkbox of what he termed fact-checking, refuting the opposition on a point-by-point basis, all the while touting the achievements of the government.
The correct historical narrative, therefore, Mr. Speaker, based on the fact, is that the JLP administration of 2007 to 11 embarked on a path of fiscal reform and responsibility that was continued by the PNP in 2012 to 2016, and which we resumed when we returned to power 2 years ago.
Finance and Public Service Minister Audley Shaw says the Police Federation have the opportunity today to indicate if its members are willing to accept retroactive payments up to April 2017.
Mr. Speaker, this payment is being made, is treated, I want to make this clear. This payment is being treated as a non-prejudicial advance payment, which will in no way compromise our ongoing negotiations, which continue. To be clear, you know, Mr. Speaker, them vexed that we are going to pay the public sector workers their money retroactive to last year, April 1. I vex them, vex, bad mind. Yes, vex. I vex you, vex.
Mr. Shaw also took the opportunity to chide the opposition.
Let it be clear. I, as Minister of Finance, has ordered that every public sector worker must get their money this month, this week, retroactive to April of last year. I have ordered it. Yes.
He argued that the payment would not impact wage talks with the island's trade unions. On Tuesday, the Nurses Association of Jamaica, the Jamaica Teachers Association, accepted the retroactive pay while they continue wage talks. The groups have rejected the government's offer of a 16% increase over a 4-year period. Mr. Shaw closed the 2018-2019 budget debate in the House of Representatives on Wednesday. The Ministry of Education says all's ready for what will be the final sitting of the Grade 6 Achievement Test, GSAT, beginning today. Education Minister REID gave the update yesterday. He says preparations have been completed despite the recent industrial action taken by some public school teachers. GSAT replaced the common entrance exam for high school placement. Almost 40,000 students are registered to sit this year's exam. Details are emerging on the circumstances which led to the Firearm Licensing Authority, the FLA, seizing a machine which it claims can manufacture parts for firearms. The machine was found at a property in Manchester. Shane Dalling, CEO of the FLA, says a probe began after 7 persons in Manchester requested permits to import more than 100,000 rounds of ammunition. He said the rounds of ammunition requested for the purpose of training on a shooting range, however, the large amount requested raised alarm. Security Minister Robert Montague, who spoke on RJR's hotline on Wednesday, agreed that the amount of ammunition requested was unusually high. According to the minister, it was during the process of retesting that the machine was discovered at the Manchester property. Meanwhile, John Jr., the attorney for the owner of the machine, is insisting that the equipment was purchased legally by his client to manufacture parts primarily for the bauxite industry. A Fly Jamaica Airways crew member has been charged after he allegedly tried to sneak in 9 pounds of cocaine into the United States. It's reported that he strapped it to his legs and strolled through customs at JFK Airport in New York. He has been identified as Hugh Hall, a citizen of Jamaica. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Mr. Hall was held on March 17 when he was caught with the cocaine, which has a street value of $160,000 US. Officials said he was coming from Montego Bay. In regional news, the ruling Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, the ABLP, led by Gaston Brown, has emerged the victor of yesterday's general election. Based on preliminary results, the party, which has governed the Eastern Caribbean country since 2014, won 13 seats to secure a second consecutive term. The United Progressive Party, UPP, only managed to take 4 seats, including Barbuda. However, its leader, Harold Lavelle, lost his seat for the second time consecutively. The country also recorded a low voter turnout. Brown announced general elections on February 24, 15 months before a constitutionally mandated deadline, giving opposition parties less than 4 weeks to prepare. He predicted a clean sweep of the polls by his ABLP party. In sports, a new Class 2 shot put record by 2-time champion Daniel Slowly of Immaculate Conception High School and an upset in the Class 1 discus were the highlights of yesterday's second day of the Inter-Secondary Schools Sports Association Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Championships at the National Stadium. After a year filled with all kinds of injuries and setbacks, Slowly, who said she only wanted a personal best, threw 15.99 meters to erase the 15.93 meters set in 2013 by Rochelle Fraser. Meanwhile, Rashi's High are the surprise leaders of 2 finals with 16 points, followed by Immaculate Conception and St. Jago, both on 9 points. Defending champions Edwin Island High and arch rivals Homewood Technical are both on 8 points, one more than Veer Technical on 7. Hydel High and Excelsior are on 6 points each, and Petersfield High are on 5 points. 4 more finals are scheduled for today's third day of the 5-day championships: high jump Class 3, discus Class 1, and long jumps Classes 2 and 4. And that's it for the news. Do stay with us. The weather report is next. This is PBCJ's weather report. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with our local currents. We're looking at Kingston this afternoon. We can expect a temperature between 23 and 30 degrees Celsius. We can also expect rainfall this afternoon in certain areas. The sun is set to go down at 6:33 p.m. Over there in Montego Bay, St. James, sunny skies, a forecast for the day with temperatures between 22 and 27 degrees Celsius. We're seeing that we could get some rainfall on the western end of the island today as well, and the temperature is set to go down in certain areas in St. James to a low 12 degrees Celsius. In our forecast across the island today, we're looking at all the areas in the parishes. We're seeing temperatures between 27 and 32 degrees Celsius. We're also seeing a forecast of some cloudy conditions in certain areas and rainfall in the central parts and eastern end of the island. Let's take a look at what could happen tomorrow. Warm temperatures between 26 and 29 degrees Celsius. We're also seeing a forecast of scattered showers across most parishes. In our regional forecast for tomorrow, we're looking at sunny skies for the weekend in the western end of the Caribbean. We're also seeing partly cloudy conditions for the Caribbean over there in Antigua and St. George's, Grenada. We're seeing temperatures between 23 and 30 degrees Celsius. Let's look further afield to the United States. If you're planning to travel to the United States tomorrow, snowfall forecast for New York. Of course, they've been going through some snowstorms this week. We are expecting sunny skies for Miami tomorrow and rainfall forecast for Los Angeles. We're seeing minimum temperature -1 degree for New York, a high 8 degrees Celsius. Still pretty cold out. We're seeing high temperature 24 degrees Celsius forecast for Miami in some areas, 11 degrees Celsius, pretty cool. We're looking at 23 degrees Celsius high for over there in Los Angeles. And that's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.